Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It is Wednesday, August 13th, Declaration Day. Just about 9 o'clock at night when I'm starting the recording this video, and this will be the coverage video for ULTY, the YieldMax Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, YieldMax's Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income Fund. I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. I repost things like when the declarations get announced this morning from YieldMax, as well as when videos are coming out, other distributions from Roundhill, and sometimes trades if I don't lose track of what I'm doing and forget like I did this morning, but that was a first, so hopefully a last as well. If you didn't know, or if you're new to the channel, I am on vacation this week, so these videos are slightly different than normal. I'm trying to get through them a little quicker. Just trying to give you the highlight reel and then get back to relaxing. Up to 3,140 subscribers, so thank you very much. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider clicking that subscribe button, like button if you like the videos, share if you know other people who are into these funds or might be interested in them. All right, we take a look at the market today. While we saw a lot of green in the indexes, ULTY ended up down a penny, I believe. Yep. With pretty good mixture, green and red. Seems like a little more red than green. And then we get down to LFGY. Now that they share some, so we won't see all of them, but a mixture. But it seems a little more green on LFGY. But they did still stayed flat. I don't know what that noise was. I'm at my dad's house and his computer just made a noise in the background, so hopefully that won't keep happening because I don't see how to turn that down. So let's we'll keep going, and if it happens again, I'll start looking for ways to silence it. So LFGY ended up flat on the day. But we'll take a look at everything that happened. Plus, if you saw the thumbnail, we had a couple of changes within ULTY, some additions, some subtractions. All right, so we download the trades file, and while we did get a couple of good days in there, here's what a normal ULTY day looks like from line 193 all the way down to 276. So realistically, still less than 100 trades. Not the worst, but it's a lot of work. LFGY is still taking it easy on me. 322 to 343, less than 20 trades. Not bad. All right, we start with ULTY, the ULTY underdogs. And starting off, we sold some shares in Coinbase and Mara and Rigetti. No complete sellouts, just reducing our position. Not sure if it's taking profits or just lowering the allocation or what the reasoning behind it is. We don't get the why, we just get the what. We bought shares in Palo Alto Networks, about $90 million worth, and Target, about $90 million worth. Then we get into the trades, starting off with that AI, that's C3.ai. We didn't buy any shares. Yesterday, we just started a put spread. So I'm going to take you back in time. And yesterday, we started this credit put spread. So we collected $4,380,000. Sold it out till next week. Closed it today for $1,380,000 for a one-day profit of $3 million. So there's your active management of the fund there. They made $3 million in a single day trading a put spread that was out till the end of next week. So got to pat them on the back for that one. Nice move. So that'll look like a negative today, right, on today's trading, because we spent $1.3 million to close it out. But big picture, it was a positive. Next, we rolled our position in Applied Materials. That cost us $2,184,000. So we are still keeping it within the same week. August 15th, just had to increase the strike price. Along with that comes increasing our protective puts to lock in that higher value. Bitmine immersion, similar, closing out, but we had to roll to next week, rolled up and out from 60 to 75, cost us $2.2 million. Webull, closing and rolling to next week, it's down slightly by 50 cents. We profited or collected $1 million on that roll. Coinbase, sorry, I need a drink. Coinbase, this wasn't a close and roll, just a close to go along with the shares that we sold. So we had to close the options along with them. That's going to cost you money because we didn't get to turn around and resell them. $2.1 million. CoreWeave, so we just started basically the same thing we did with AI yesterday. We started one with CoreWeave today. Sold puts at 121 and bought at 116. Now, not sure. Let me just double check what we're saying. We sold at 121 and bought at 116. Not sure what time of the day that was, but I'm guessing it wasn't the end of the day because the stock ended at 117. So those 121s that we sold are looking very expensive to close out. So now all of a sudden we need CoreWeave to go up to not lose that trade. But today we collected almost 1.5, almost $1.6 million. Selling that, it's instantly going to cost a whole lot more than that to close. So we'll see how we make out. We'll see if they just go ahead and cut the loss and forget it, or if they let it ride till next week to see if they make out, if the CoreWeave gets a bounce. Robinhood, closing for this week, rolling to next week, also bringing the strike price down closer to the money, collecting $310,000. IonQ, closing out for this week, selling for next week, keeping similar prices on the first strike, $43.50, reducing the 46s to 44s, collecting $5.4 million on that trade. Mara Holdings, this is just closing to go along with the shares that we sold up top, so that cost us $238,000. MicroStrategy, close and roll to next week, dropping the strike price a little, $1.5 million collected. Nebius Group, closing and rolling to next week, dropping the strike price by about $5, collecting $514,000. Palo Alto Networks, this is the new one we just bought shares in, so we start our collar strategy, selling calls and buying puts. We collected $1.1 million on those trades. Palantir, close out for this week, roll into next week, up and out, increasing our strike by $10. That cost us $739,000. Reddit, closing out for this week, selling for next week, increasing the strike price, cost us $2.2 million. Rigetti, this one, I think this is our one that hurt the most. Close out for this week, roll into next week, increasing the strike decently from 16 and 1650 up to 1850. We didn't do all of them because Rigetti was another one that we sold shares in. So that makes sense with closing all these out and then only reselling the 68,731. That cost us $8.7 million. Rocket Lab collecting $1.1 million on the closeout and roll to next week, lowering the strike price closer to the money. New Scale Power, SMR, collected $693,000 on the trade. Just closed out the 4250s. I don't believe that's a 400. Nope. Yep, closing out the 4250s and selling 39, still within the same week, so we're still going after this week's time value. we already said it, 693. And Target bought shares, so we start the collar strategy, selling calls, buying puts, collecting $1.1 million. All in all, for August 13th, trading options resulted in a debit or loss spending of $5.3 million. That's going to go along with a decrease in value as well. But before we get there, it is declaration day. So we got all our declarations, weeklies on this side, Group B on that side. Surprise, surprise, ULTY wins again, paying over 80%, 85, almost 86%. Surprised us with a dime. We weren't expecting that. Some people in the comments were, but I wasn't. Palantir paying almost $7.50, over 126%, resulted in them being the big winner. If you want to hear the breakdown on all the rest of these, I did something a little bit different this morning, had a few extra minutes, and made this video here, YieldMax Group B and weekly distribution declarations, added in the Round Hill 0 DTE funds too. So it's just a short and sweet, like 10 minutes, just talking about distributions that got announced first thing in the morning, percentages, everything like that, so we could cut down the length of this ULTY video. All right, but no surprise, ULTY's our weekly winner as always. Now, if you watch the video, right, I told you they lost 5 cents a share. The IV estimate, now again, mine's not going to be perfect, was saying 8.6 cents. I rounded up and said I still think they're going to pay at 80% yield, so I revised it yesterday to 9.3 cents. Even that wasn't enough. They're still paying 10 cents. I was off by 7.5%. All right, when we take a look at the underlying stocks within the fund, see how things went. Affirm was up a little over 1%. Boy, right off the bat. Maybe I forgot to do some prep work over here. I did. So their calls went into the money by 0.27%. No action was taken. C3.ai, we didn't own any shares. We just had this put spread, and it has been closed out, so it will no longer be on the books when we start tomorrow. That's when the holdings come out. Applied Materials up 0.8%. Took their calls slightly in the money. Not sure why they chose to close and roll these. Let's see if at one point in the day they were a lot higher. Yeah, I mean, it looks like high peaks and valleys, but we go from 191 basically to 188. I don't know. So anyway, they rolled these, so they're no longer there. AppLovin down 4.4%. Oh boy, we got lots of colors that are wrong. I did not finish my prep work. I think I did it on LFGY and then started the video and forgot to get into it. So AppLovin down. Jeez, bear with me. This is what happens when I try to make videos on vacation. They got calls still for this week that are 1.3 and 5.2% out of the money. AST Space Mobile up a little over 0.5%. Took their 50s into the money slightly. They got 51s and 5150s, 1.9 and 2.9% out of the money. Bitmine Immersion down 1.3%. They rolled the 60s that went in the money. They still have 70s for next week that are 13.5% out of the money. Webull down almost 4%. They got 16s that are 6.5% out of the money, and their 17s got rolled to next week or rolled closer to the money. Can't remember which. Yep, to next week and closer to the money. All the above. Coinbase up 1.3%. They rolled the positions that went in the money and the ones that were furthest out of the money. That was a sold put, so that went so far out of the money they took the win. Cost them pennies to close out. They still have 332.50s in play that are 1.6% out of the money. Galaxy Digital up a little over 1.5%. 28.50s and 29s for this week, and then 29s again for next week. 0.5% and 2.3% out of the money. Just should mention, nice chunk of change sitting there, $225 million in government obligation funds. Robinhood, these should all be green, down 4.79%. They went ahead and closed out the 118s that were nice and far out of the money. The 116s are still in play, 6.7% out of the money. IonQ, down over 4%. They closed and rolled all positions. Mara Holdings up 0.89%. I'm guessing, these got cheap, right? 11 cents. They probably were maybe even a little cheaper by the time they closed them. 7, 8, 10, 11 cents. So close those out and rolled them. They still have 16s that are 0.8% out of the money expiring Friday. Look at that. They changed. I don't know how long it's been like that, but they finally updated it to where it doesn't say MicroStrategy. It just says strategy. I wonder if I doubt they'll change the ticker. Down 1.1%. Closed and rolled the positions that were left for this week, and they have 4 or 5s that have already been rolled to next week, 3.8% out of the money. Nebius Group, the big loser here today, down 6.24%. Their 79s were well out of the money. They rolled them, and the 71s have now dropped out of the money slightly by roughly 0.5%. That took down the value by $10 million. Today's drop. Oklo down 1.3%. These must have been sitting in the money pretty good. So they got 80s for this week that are 3.3% out of the money, and then 76s and 77s already rolled to next week that are in the money by 1.8 and 0.5%. Palantir down 1.3%. Now we've been following these. They've been in the money, I believe, all week. They decided to roll them today. Not entirely sure why. They might feel something's coming, but it worked in their favor going down. And then they've got 187.50s and 192.50s still in play that are 1.7 and 4.4% out of the money. Reddit up 4.8%. That took their options in the money. They rolled the ones further in the money, the 225s. The 227.50s are still in play, even though they're 3.1% in the money. Rigetti Computing, the big increase today, 6.4%. They rolled the positions that were 7% in the money. They left the 1650s in play that are still 4.2% in the money. That resulted in an increase of almost $12 million of value to the fund. Rocket Lab down about 1%. They rolled They rolled the further out of the money 10 and 11 percenters. They left the 46s that are about 7% out of the money in play. SMCI down 0.78%. They got 48s for this week and already some rolled to next week, 4% out of the money. New Scale Power down 2.2%. They took the win and rolled the 42.50s. They still have $40.50 calls sold, 8.5% out of the money, expiring on Friday. Tesla just started with them yesterday, down 0.4%. Now this one was strange. I wanted to point this out. I noticed it when I was processing the trades yesterday. I wonder if this was an error, like a mistake, or if this was intentional, because it follows our strategy of buying the shares, selling a call, and buying a put. But if you'll notice, the sold call is sitting beneath the purchase put, and when you find out why, it's because the purchase put is for this week, and the sold call is for next week. I don't know if we'd get a straight answer anyway if they would admit, hey, we clicked on the wrong expiration button, but it's got to be my guess since it's the first time I've seen them do it, but maybe it was intentional. It's their strategy. So purchased the put for this week and sold a 360 for next week. In any case, that 360 is 6% out of the money. Unity Software up 1.75%. Their calls are at 37 and 37.50, roughly 2.5 and 1.1% in the money. No action taken. And Upstart up 5.39%. Nice bounce off of that yesterday drop. Yesterday or the day before, up to 66.83. That actually took their calls in the money. Let's take a look if they, yesterday with the big drop, did they adjust down? Sure did. Not that it's a ton of money, but yesterday with the drop, they closed out their 71s and 72s for this week and sold still for this week 66s and 68s. And so now, instead of these being 71s and 72s that will be out of the money, the 66s have immediately gone back in the money. So we'll see how that works out. But no action taken today. The 68s are still 1.75% out of the money. So all of those changes resulted in an $11.8 million decrease in value. ULTY ended down a cent, 609. There's $3.180 billion in assets under management. That was before the day started. As far as yesterday was concerned, they added 9.3 million shares, bringing outstanding shares up to 522, almost 523 million. Most recent distribution was 10.03, 10 cents, and the new one that was just announced is practically the same, 10.06, I think we said. Yep. Okay. Next, we'll get over to LFGY, see how they made out. Starting with the trades, we only had a handful of trades, and all of them was complete rollouts of positions. So starting with Hood, closing for this week, rolling to next week, lowering the price, $178,000 collected. Hut 8 Corp, closing out for this week, rolling to next week, increasing the price. That cost us $340,000. MicroStrategy, closing for this week, rolling to next week, and lowering our strike price, collecting $186,000. Opera, this was just a close of the call, buy to close the call at 20 and sell a 17.50, but they rolled it out a month to September 19th. And that resulted in a $403,000 credit. As you can see, paying 2 cents to close it out and selling for 95 cents. And then PayPal, closing for this week, rolling to next week. Had to increase our strike. Still collected some premium though, $3,770. All in all, resulted in a $432,000 credit in our options trading. We can see there we've got a increase in value, but not too much. Before we switch over, we'll talk about the distribution announced. So we said that they made almost 20 cents a share. It wasn't going to be enough to distribute. IV brought us up to 41.8. I thought that was still going to be low, and my guesstimate was 42.5 cents. They decided to bump it even more than that, so my guesstimate was a 60.73. There's even more than that, 44.84 cents. I was off by 5.2%. When we look at these trades, I believe I adjusted all these colors so we won't have to do that as we go. Bitmine immersion down 1.3%. Options for already rolled the next week, 5.5% out of the money. BitDeer big winner, 5.8% increase. Sorry about that. Took their 13s and 1350s into the money 3 and 7%. Left their 14s slightly out of the money, 0.14% or 2 cents. That being the big increase, only resulted in a $400,000 change in market value. They are roughly 3.8% of the holdings. Clean Spark up 0.5%. They've got 1050s and 11s still in play for this week that are 5.3 and 10.3% out of the money. Coinbase up 1.3%. Calls for this week are 350, still 7% out of the money. Core Scientific got beat up today. Big loser, down 8.3%. I think that's going to be similar. So Core Weave and Core Scientific, I think they've been in the middle of one trying to acquire the other or something along those lines. So yeah, both had rough days, 20% down and 8% down. But that 8% basically brought them from just in the money to 8% out of the money with those 15s. So not necessarily the way we want things to go. We'd like to be right at the money so we get our highest increase in value. Circle Internet Group down 6%. Their calls are now 11% out of the money, expiring Friday at 170. ETHA, the iShares Ethereum ETF, up 4.8%, took their 35s into the money by 2.5%. Galaxy Digital, 1.5% increase, left their $29 calls expiring Friday, 2.3% out of the money. GameStop was up 0.39%, crossed that $23 price, which put them in the money on those by 0.09%. Robinhood down 4.79%. They went ahead and rolled these positions. Hut 8 Corp up 3.6%. Their deeper in the money positions were rolled. They've already got 22s that had been rolled the next week that are in the money also by 1.6%. IBIT was up 2.78%. No options to speak of, so it's just an increase in value. And a good one, 552,000. Mara Holdings up 0.89%, leaving their calls 16 and 1650, 0.8 and 4% out of the money. MBTX, that was an increase to 290. So this bet on them going down has not been working out well. They've got a credit call spread or a bear call spread with the 280s call. So they just adjusted these maybe yesterday, maybe the day before, and increased these strikes. And the new strike has been blown through as well, 3.7% in the money. They also adjusted these this put spread. It was a debit put spread where they bought the originally 230s. They just adjusted these up to 255s, and the share price keeps increasing. So we definitely lost on the initial put spread. We've basically restarted it and we're losing again. So the MBTX trades have not been going well. Mercado Libre down 1%. 2400s expiring Friday are 3% out of the money. Strategy now. It's hard now to just call it strategy when I'm looking at MSTR. Down 1.1%. They closed and rolled all positions held in there. NU Holdings up a little over 1%. Still 5% out of the money on those 13s expiring Friday. NVIDIA down 0.86%. Left their calls that are sold for 185 on Friday. 1.8% out of the money. Opera up slightly, 1 cent. They closed and rolled their 20s. They still have 1750s in play for this week and 1750s for next week. 6.3% out of the money. And I'm sorry, that second one's not next week. It is next month, September 19th. So Opera might only trade monthlies. I think we've said that before. PayPal Holdings, 3.9% increase. They went into the money and closed and rolled that position. Riot Platforms up 1.3%, still 3.5% out of the money on the 12s expiring this Friday. And Block up 3.2%. 78s expiring Friday are 1.3% out of the money. So all of that resulted, and look, it has updated since I copied it. That's why I leave it down there, so it stands out easy to me when I need to change it. All right, LFGY closed at 37.03. Assets under management before the day started, 193 million. So that doesn't take into account the trading or share value increases, or if anyone bought into the fund today. Yesterday, people bought into the fund to the tune of 75,000 new shares, bringing us up to 5,250,000. Our NAV before the day started was roughly 36.82. Most recent distribution 43.66, and we just said the next one's going to be slightly higher. We'll paste in this new final amount. Now the reason that happens is because I've got Excel formulas for each of the stocks, and while the stocks generally end up closing correctly on time, usually funds take a little bit more time for the dust to settle. But little recap of the day. ULTY had a loss in trading of 5.3 million, had a decrease in value of the overall shares within the fund of 11.8 million. They declared their distribution for this week at 10.06 cents, 7.5% higher than my revised guesstimate. So, and then LFGY had a profitable day trading, 432,000, had an increase in value to the tune of 670,000. Announced their distribution of 44.84 cents per share, which was 5% higher than my guesstimate. All right, believe that's everything. Like I said, if you want to see all the other distributions for Group B and the weeklies and the round hills, I made a video specifically on that. Thank you everybody for watching. Appreciate everything. I'm sorry, I know I'm falling behind on keeping up with comments and everything like that. I missed posting the RDTE trades, or the 0 DTE trades for Round Hill this morning. Vacation brains getting to me, but for sure by next week I'll get everything back on par, but I will hopefully get it back together by tomorrow. So dad joke of the day, and then we're done. When are holes beautiful? When they're gorgeous. Okay, have a good rest of your night. Sorry about yesterday's real late video. This one's a little late, but I think I still get it out good enough that most of you will see it. And good luck trading tomorrow. Catch you in the next video.